Amateurs sit and wait for inspiration. The rest of us just get up and go to work. Spoken by the acclaimed writer Stephen King. Let me introduce myself. I am today's host for the podcast, Aishwarya from Grow Junction, the tech platform. And today's guest is Akshit Narain Saxena, who is an analyst at Deloitte, who has worked as a product manager in Hero Fincorp, and he has done his MBA from FORE School of Management, Delhi. And he has done his BTech from Rajasthan Technical University in Electronics and Communications. Uh, Akshit, have I introduced yourself correctly? If there's anything that I've missed, you can add.
This is absolutely fine, Aishwarya. Thank you for having me.
Okay. So, Akshit, just I would want to go. The first thing that I want, tell our viewers that how was the college life during BTech and even after BTech before MBA?
I mean, so when you talk about college life, there has been a stark difference in my bachelor's and in my master's. Of course, engineering is more of a chill sort of a degree initially for the 4 years, and then MBA comes totally as a different corporate path where you have hardly any sort of time for your personal growth. So it's been quite a different journey for me. I managed to do a lot of things during my engineering, and they were completely different for my MBA. To give you an example, I remember, so during my engineering, I even worked for this company called Active Solutions just to support my family and earn some extra bucks. You see, I was active in music, I was performing here and there, I was in college badminton team, and then there were studies going on side by side, as unprecedented option. And then came MBA, all of a different journey where you have studies going on, surprise quizzes, assignments all the time, lectures all going on, 1.5 hour long sessions. Then I was a place commer, so you had meetings with different corporates, getting the entire batch placed. It was quite different. It was very fun, and definitely I tried my best to get through it with flying colors.
Akshit, that is the same story everywhere. Even we are doing MBA right now, and everything has to everything has to be put aside, and there's only one thing, and there's MBA in your hands. So that happens. How did you go about your MBA preparation? I mean, would you, and the work life? I mean, you said that after BTech you were also working. So, how did you manage that with your MBA preparation? Were you doing it parallelly, or did it happen before or after?
Believe it or not, I worked as a full-time musician for 2 years after my engineering degree. Oh. So I was lucky enough to get placed in Capgemini as a software engineer during my engineering days. But I decided I want to explore, I want to get new experiences in my life. So that is when I turned into a full-time musician. I played with various artists, various bands throughout the country. And during those days, I realized, there is this one threshold that comes in a particular career when you decide, okay, this is the stopping point and you cannot proceed through it without taking unprecedented risk, which is really not necessary in your life. So I decided maybe an MBA is an option. And MBA for me, I did not want to go directly for an MBA without preparation or something like that. So, different from everyone else, I gave mocks first before preparing, just to have an idea as to how good I am for that MBA curriculum. I gave mocks. The results were quite promising, and I wanted polishing for that. So I started preparing for it. I mean, just like everyone else, I joined the Curriculum Institute, the Time Institute, and I prepared with them, gave multiple mocks. One thing that I would like to bring into notice of everyone, especially the audience, is I think it's more about how natural you are with the test. It's not how good your preparation is, but it's how well you utilize that time period of CAT exam, you see, or those 90 minutes or those 120 minutes, whichever the time slot it is. So how well you utilize them, it's going to decide how well your test has gone, not the preparation that you've done before that. Because it's up to you how you remain calm, how your mind works throughout those times without getting exhausted. Even, in our cases, the quants is supposed to be the last section, and most of our brain gets exhausted during those times. So utilize your mocks well. Just make sure that you have done plenty of preparation, that you do not get exhausted during those time period, and then go for it. It will be best for you.
Okay,
that is exactly what I did.
Yeah, Akshit, please continue.
Sure. So that is the sort of approach that I own, and then I went into an MBA. And that's what.
That's actually very insightful, Akshit. Just wanted to ask one more thing. How did you, I mean, you were talking about a threshold in a career. Could you expand over it? Because our viewers, they are also students over here. So they might also need to know, they might be experienced, they might not be experienced. They definitely, a small fraction of them might be musicians. So if you have any experience that you want to share when you talked about threshold and switching over, first going from company like Gemini to being a musician, and then from being a musician to pursuing your MBA. How did that happen? If you could expand it in your subjective opinion, from your personal experiences.
Let me
Was there
try.
a struggle involved? Was there, I mean, what was the journey like? Because it is really unique. So
Of course, see, there's a lot of struggle associated when you come from, working with a software giant like Capgemini, then turning your career into music, and then in MBA, you have to take some really staunch decisions that are going to completely change the way your life was going. Threshold, if I talk about, it completely depends on the person, how much risk you ought to take, and how much time you have in your hand. So for example, in my case, I was already 22, 23 years old, and I was earning pretty handsome, but that was not the kind of satisfaction that I was looking for. I would really emphasize on the word satisfaction, because that is exactly what you need to focus during your entire corporate journey. Because otherwise, if you're not satisfied with your job, it's not going to make any sort of sense. So I was not satisfied with the kind of work that I was doing, and that is why I had a career option in my hand, which was in terms of MBA. So just make sure, if you are going to, that threshold is going to arrive when you are not satisfied with what you are doing and you are looking for other options. Just make sure you have plenty of options in your hand, whatever it is, and the risk that you're about to take is not something that is going to taint your future. Just make sure you play safe throughout the time.
That makes actually, I mean, that is very sound advice, quite frankly. And yeah, we need to have options if we are taking risks, and we need to know, where to stop taking risks and whether risk is not worth the reward, if there is a reward in the horizon, even. Because, like I said, I mean, like you said, that the talent industry, I mean, the odds are pretty much stacked against you. So, at least in our exams like MBA and CAT and everything else, we know what the odds are. Over there, we cannot quantify the odds. Makes perfect sense. Yeah, Akshit, please continue.
So I think that's pretty much it. Just make sure whatever you are doing is satisfying you enough, gives you the peace of mind. And whenever, this is one thing, I forgot the movie where I saw this quote. I think it was more of some sort of quote by Sunil Gavaskar or not. So Sachin goes to Sunil Gavaskar and asks, what is the time when how do you decide when is the time when you need to take a retirement? Sunil Gavaskar says and tells him that when you are playing a game, and if you start looking at the watch, looking forward to the time when it gets over and you get to go back home, then you decide, and it's the time to take retirement, and it's over. So it's all about that. It's simple approach. Just make sure you're happy and satisfied.
That's actually very, very. Just want Before we go forward, just want to ask. I mean, how was your transition from engineering to MBA? I mean, academically speaking, when you got the admission into your college.
Academically, if you talk about engineering, I just told you, like, curriculum is one of the things that you do during the part of engineering time. It's not your life does not revolve around your books. It does not revolve around tests and everything. And it's completely different for MBA. Whatever you are doing, ultimately your goal is to score well in MBA, to learn something that is going to come in handy for next at least 20 years in your corporate life. So academically, it's about learning how well you can learn. It's about excelling in the things that you learn. We had people in our batch who came from varied backgrounds. For example, I had a friend who was from zoology background, and then he's going particularly good in finance. Then we had people who had chemistry honors, and they were going good at marketing jobs and all sorts of things. Just because you need to have some sort of orientation with that academic strata. if you're doing well over there, it's completely a certification that is going to make you do well in your upcoming corporate journey as well. MBA is about a little more about curriculum than what engineering was.
I mean, zoology. I mean, zoology to finance. That would have been an interesting journey. Oh my God. So,
Yeah.
I just want to ask you. I mean, once you told us about how you came up with the fact that your MBA is the right option for you. But going forward, how did you decide that being an analyst was the right fit, or how did you come up to be an analyst? Because from MBA the verticals are endless, and you can go in finance, HR, operations, marketing, and even now product management is a new field. Uh, how did you come up to be that? Yeah, Akshit needs to go for the roles of analyst. So how did that happen?
Actually, one of the most crucial things, I think even you this must be clear in your head as well, is to get placed when you come in a good MBA college, right? So placement season is one of the most daunting period of time in any of the MBA's lifetime. There are multiple companies coming on campus. Everyone has a different JD, offering different things, different career perspectives. And that is where you need to decide what sort of career path you need to take, what sort of work you will be comfortable in, and what are the offerings that you are looking forward to. So I was lucky enough that Hero Fincorp was visiting the campus during that point of time. And the best thing that I liked about their JD was that it's a small organization. Like if you look at a particular cohort of NBFCs, which Hero Fincorp is, it's not a major player. The major players like Tata's and Aditya Birlas, they have got 10 times, 20 times more book size than it, and a much larger organization. So there are multiple benefits that come with working for a small organization. Less number of people, less organic structure, and you get to interact with more of CXO level people, and the number of contacts is really great, and the learning is exponentially high. So that is why I tried, and luckily I got into Hero Fincorp, and that is where I fell in love with the numbers. NBFCs are all about numbers and everything, playing with them in Excel and using other tools, Salesforce and everything. So that was particularly my life for the entire 1.5 year that I've worked for Hero Fincorp, where it was all about analysis, numbers, data, big chunks, insights about those numbers for your managers. That is when I came across this opportunity in Deloitte, and as a business analyst, as an analyst, they had opened it, and it was in organization transformation, which is more of like enabling digital enablement, change management, L&D and all such stuff. So I was a little more curious about it, because this was exactly one of the companies that visits the campus and has a huge we have a huge alumni base in that company. I talked to many alumni who were working over there. I got to know about what sort of work they follow. It was quite interesting, more or less related to what I was actually doing at Hero Fincorp. It was more like digital enablement. I get to work on various tools, work with large amount of data, interacting with clients. It was really interesting, and that is when I decided that okay, I have to go and give it a shot.
Okay. So Akshat, we are being good at numbers. I mean, how would you say that? I mean, the Akshat of 5 years ago, how would you tell him that Akshat, analyst, being a business analyst as a career, and how the industry that you now that you've seen the industry, experienced the industry, how would you suggest the Akshat of 5 years or 8 years ago on doing things? I mean, I'm asking this because we might be having viewers who are aspiring students. They know that they might want to pursue MBA, but they don't know which. I mean, what are the offerings in the industry when you do an MBA? So being a business analyst is sort of it is something that people have heard of it, but they never exactly know what it is. So that's the reason I'm asking. What would you suggest 8 years or 5 years ago to Akshat about being a business analyst to reach where you are? If you would have done it a little differently, what would have been their advice?
Well, if I get a chance to interact with Akshit, which was 5 years old, I would tell him that, data is going to be the next oil in industry. People are going to hunt people who can come up with insights with large chunks of data. The devices that you are using are storing your information. There is petabytes of information with them, and earn some particular skills that are going to help them to come up with insights. To be a data analyst, it's more of like, you need to come up with tools, you need to come up with numbers, identify patterns, know things that other people don't, good with statistics and probability and all these things. I wouldn't say that you need to be a little too much focused on it. See, when you come to come in an MBA college, and when you're looking for placement, it's all about your pre-MBA work and the work you do during the MBA. Pre-MBA, if you have had some sort of work experience, you would know what the industry is like, which sort of career path you want to choose, what is good, what is bad. You have a little idea. For people who are freshers, I would say go with your interest. I was good at C++ during my engineering and during 11th and 12th class. So I had that particular interest in programming and all these things, uh, uh, which made me, a little inquisitive about SQL and Python and all these things. If you're not, there is absolutely free, classes available. Then there is Microsoft Excel, which I think is one of the greatest inventions of our time, because when it comes to data analysis, Excel offers a huge sort of help for all these things. So 5 years back, I would have told them
it's not even a software, it's a platform.
Yeah, just go get your hands dirty in Excel. At least learn Microsoft Excel, if not a programming language. Get to know about it. Get in and out. If somebody asks you what is this, what is that, at least you should have an idea of designing of particular pivot table and all these analysis. That is going to serve you pretty well in the coming years of your life.
So that's the advice that you have for our viewers, and that's actually great advice. And bang on the Excel part. I was a software engineer before, and we just used Excel for solving things. But while doing MBA, I realized that no, Excel is it's a whole different beast in itself. So we are still using it for regression analysis and everything else, and we are realizing how much powerful and easy it is. You don't need to be good at particularly maths, but you need to be decently well enough in data interpretation that Excel would present you. You need to just interpret the data. And
exactly.
Bang on, Akshit. So just want to ask you from an industry perspective, where do you see business analysts going forward? You said that data is the next oil. But this has been described, this has been said about data a lot of times. Do you have a successful example of the same, or maybe an unsuccessful example for the same? Because it's something that everybody says, but a student or a layman or some person who's trying to a student who's trying to pursue his MBA right now, they might know data is the next oil, but they might not know how is it the oil or what to do with the oil. So if you have any example to expand over, so that our viewers could have a direction over how to be a data analyst and a business analyst going forward.
Well, data is by what I mean by when I say data is the next oil is the fact that while you're doing an MBA, you get to work on different you study different subjects, like there is marketing, there is HR, there is strategy, operations, and all these things, and all of them give you a lot of bookish knowledge, a lot of them. But ultimately, a lot of them has been I'm really sorry to say, but a lot of them, the knowledge is already expired. You do not need it. It would not serve you for the coming years. But data as an oil is what I mean by that is, if you look at the rankings, the top 5 biggest companies in this world, it's Google. You talk about Twitter, you talk about Facebook. I'm sure Twitter is not one of the companies, but if you talk about Google and Facebook, all of them work on particular data sets. All of them require their customers' data, and all of them require a lot of people who can analyze that data and give them beautiful insights. If a company wants to acquire new customers, they want data. If a company wants to launch a new product, they want data. If a company wants anything, any action, it is dependent upon data, right? It's not old sorts of job where they have to scratch through files and search for particular things, or maybe go into the field and talk to people about it. It's more of a digital century where they need to do is they have pivot tables, they have charts, they have SQL, Tableau, and all these things for that, and they take decisions on the basis of that. If you're working for an organization, your manager is going to ask you to give him particular chart so that he can take valuable decisions for that. Bar graphs, bar graphs, scatter plots and everything. This is how crucial a data is. This is how crucial you learning to be a good analyst is. This is exactly how important being an analyst is, right?
That makes perfect sense. And me myself studying the same, I'm realizing how important it is to be on the other side. So just want to ask you, being a data analyst is, it must be hectic. How do you manage being in the Quora partner program? And if you can tell our viewers more about it.
So I've been using Quora for past 12 years. I guess it's during the time when it incepted in India. So it was during the phase one lockdown in 2020 when I received an email from Quora, and they wanted me to participate in their partners program. It's pretty much like how you do blogging or vlogging these days. The only difference is they pay me to ask questions on Quora.
Okay.
I was very excited about this opportunity because when you are a partner at Quora, all you do is you post random questions all over it, and then according to the performance of your question, how much ad impressions it has gained, it monetizes your questions in that manner. So first of all, it teaches you what ad impression is. Basically, for a marketing, I guess it is very important.
Very important.
Then it teaches you external and internal audience, what is the difference, how to gain more traffic on your questions. It teaches you what exactly is the trend going on in the market right now, what sort of questions you need to ask, what sort of tools are there, what is good, what is bad in the market, what sort of questions are going to give you higher money, and so on and so forth. So it is been quite a journey for Quora's partner program as well. Managing it with my job, I don't think it's a difficult thing, because Quora pays me for my curiosity. Every time I have some sort of inquisition, I just open my Quora to transform my curiosity into a question and I post it. And it monetizes at the background. I do not need to do anything regarding it. So it's been pretty chill for that as well. So it's sort of a additional income for me.
That's that's pretty neat. And Akshit, how would you completed your MBA during the online? During the offline days.
2020.
2020. So before the online education boom that we saw, everybody was forced to study online. You completed before that. How did you see the change in our online MBA system and the offline system that is coming back again to the old system? How do you see it? Do you see that we'll be going back to the wholly offline mode? Do you see ourselves in a hybrid mode? Do you see there's a validity to online education, or is it a supplementary of sorts? What are your views about it being on the other side? Because most of our viewers must have experienced online education in some form or the other. Even your host this side has had a year of MBA online. So, and my previous studies and work even have been done offline. So the stark contrast is something to play with. So just wanted to know your views of MBA and the online experiences and the offline experiences to go with.
Well, I consider myself lucky enough that my MBA tenure was during the days when we had to go to the college, carry our books, attend those lectures after sleepless nights of assignment submission and all these things. What I think, see, online MBA or offline MBA, I don't think there is any sort of difference. It depends on the person, how you perceive it. But there's one very big flaw in this structure, which is peer-to-peer learning. MBA is a lot about how you learn with the people you spend your time with. There are people who have 5 years experience, who have 6 years experience, and there are freshers who just come right after the college. As I already told you, there are people who come from zoology and chemistry and all these things. So it depends on your learnings from them as well. They give you a lot of things to learn about. They give you a lot of different point of views that you haven't gained throughout your life. That is one thing that I think that may be missing from that online thing. Or otherwise, with the type of advancement we are getting from technology, I think online MBAs will be catching enough. Although looking at the current scenario, I think it's going to be a hybrid model pretty soon, where you will be invited to college for a certain amount of time, and then the remaining classes are going to be offline, and so on and so forth. So it's going to be a mix of that. And particularly if you're talking about this structure, it's going to give you a wider horizon of development, because in that cases you'll get a wider variety of exchange programs. For example, you can sit right at your home and attend exchange programs from one of the best universities in the world, and apply for them, attend their lectures while sitting at your home. This is not the kind of independence that we had during our time, and we had to visit the campuses all over. So it's going to be a pretty good offering in that terms as well. So highs and lows are always there. I think the hybrid model is going to offer a pretty better deal than completely offline or a completely online mode of education.
I totally agree with you, Akshit. I mean, when I experienced MBA offline, I realized what I was missing out on, and that was definitely peer-to-peer learning. Even from our college professors, the after lecture hours that we used to spend with the college lecturers, that was not possible
Yeah,
in the online one. When once the meeting is ended, it's ended. So
absolutely.
yeah, I mean, yeah, the hybrid model that you said, I mean, that makes a lot more sense, and it gives us a lot more freedom to pursue what we want and how we want it. And the lecturers also the same. So, yeah.
And it's not just about the lectures only. I mean, see, one good thing about MBA colleges is that the entire college is run on the shoulders of the students only. Like, there are committee works, and there are late night meetings, and there is a decision that are needed to be taken regarding very crucial matters. There is student council, and there are place commerce and all these things. When you are working while sitting at your home, you miss all this stuff, which is, I think, a very big lag on their behalf.
Definitely. And let's see how it goes, how online MBA catches up with such experiences. And one more thing, I mean, you talked about in the podcast that analysts, I mean, data is the next oil, and data is the oil of today. I mean, how do you see our online work mode with business analysts catching up? I mean, uh, are business analysts very customer facing kind of a role, or customer facing kind of a responsibility, or is it something that you do have a minimal interaction with the customers, uh, maximum interaction with the team, or maybe you work alone? What is the kind of the dynamic that follows? Because different dynamics have different requirements, and we've seen that you know people from different backgrounds, they have different experiences when it comes to online work. So, I mean, how was your experience with the lockdown and online work in general? Was your role a team-based role, a customer-facing role, or a little bit of an isolated one, or a mixed bag?
There were two different experiences. While I was with Hero Fincorp, it was different, and then with Deloitte, it has been completely different. Uh, so if I had to explain, initially Hero Fincorp was an online role where I was given the opportunity to work with different departments. So I was with the sales team for quite substantial amount of time, where I had the interaction with clients, I had the interaction with customers who walk in. Then I had a period of time where I was dedicated towards the credit team. Then there were where credit team goes through the underwritings and all these background over things. Then I spent quite a lot of time with the product team. I was with the CXO level people as well. It was then during that period of time, suddenly the model changed, and it became a hybrid model where I had to go to the office for 3 days a week. So it was 2 days a week. It was online, and then remaining it was offline. So it was completely different. When you were at your home, the work culture was completely different, because you were in your bed and you just open your laptop and start working. And while you're in your office, you'll have to be completely in your formals, interacting with everyone, you know going here and there, running with files. By the way, NBFC structure is still hardback files and not the computer structure. So it's been quite different. When I came to Deloitte, I haven't visited the office as such. It has been completely online up until now. It's been more like meeting, regular meetings with your team members, what the project is about, weekly meetings with the clients, or even, sometimes even more scarce than that. So it's been a little different than that. And the work is more focused. But Deloitte, in terms of acceptability, has a wider horizon, because they give you the independence to work on whichever sort of project you want, whatever direction you need to take in terms of your career, what all you want to learn and everything. So it's been more acceptable. The acceptability has been higher at Deloitte, and people have been more friendlier. I feel.
So you're saying that you had a mix kind of a role where you were interacting with clients, and sometimes you had to work on your own, not even with a team.
Yeah.
So okay, so that kind of a role must have worked out pretty well for an online situation or work from home situation. So how do you see work also going forward? I just wanted to ask because you gave your opinion about how you see education going forward. So do you see the same kind of a hybrid model in work? Does that make more sense since you worked in a hybrid model or an online model almost always? Before that, yeah, during Capgemini, you were in the offline mode probably. So how do you see?
I did not. Just a point of information, I did not accept the offer for Capgemini. I directly jumped into the music.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, how, in your point of view, how do you see work going forward? Work as in work in general in our IT space, in the analyst or MBA space. Now that you have the hybrid model in your.
I think, see, it depends upon the industry more or less. So if you're working in consulting, for example, it's going to be a hybrid model as much as possible, because people have realized that there is no need for opening the office for 5 days, or attending all these things again and again and again. So if it's possible, you get to stay at your home in a safe place and work from there only. But if you talk about other sorts of industry structures, for example IT, if you talk about, so there's a lot of requirement for you to regularly visit your office in terms of regular client meetings. Sales, for example, regular client meetings, you have to be on the field for most part of your corporate life. So it's going to be hybrid for most of them, but when required, of course, they're going to switch towards 100% of office attendance as well.
Okay. And like you said that there was a difference in work culture when we work in an online mode versus offline mode. So which one do you prefer in your subjective opinion, online or offline?
I would rather take the middle path and say the hybrid model serves pretty well, because there have been good times when you were in the office and you wanted to stay back because you had such a nice time, and then there were times when you were almost dozing off and you wanted to go home as soon as possible. So it's got to be the middle ground. The hybrid model is really fine. Plus, of course, if you're talking about the completely offline mode, it gives an opportunity to be, on site with clients, working from their office stations. I have friends who are working, who are working in McKinsey or working in Bain in Boston. And then, they have bigger clients, for example, Microsoft, and they work from Microsoft's office in Seattle or any of these places. When you're working in a completely online mode, it devoids you from such opportunities, and you are just confined into four walls of your room and working through that only. So I think that is a downside of working completely online, and the hybrid model should try to bridge that gap between the two.
That makes no sense. I mean, Akshit, this has been very delightful. It has been very delightful to have you over here, and your insights were very. I think that our viewers will find it very useful. Any advice, life or otherwise, that you want to give our viewers before we wrap this up?
I'm not that, I do not think our generation needs any sort of advice. We have internet for that matter. Tons of information which was earlier unavailable to anyone. But if I had to say one thing, I would say that, open to be every experience that is coming in your way. It's going to serve really well in your life. As Haruki says, Haruki is a famous Japanese writer who wrote Ikigai. He says that once you're out of the storm, you wouldn't even remember how you survived through the storm, or was the storm even real or not. But you are going to be a different person, different than the one who entered the storm. That is what matters. That is exactly what is going to serve you in your CV and in your resume and in front of other people. Just be open to experiences and forget about the struggle. It's going to serve you well in the future.
Our operations teacher, Mr. Akshit Joshi, Dr. Akshit Joshi, he is a fan of the writer. He has mentioned him a couple of times in a lecture. Yep, Ikigai. Thank you, Akshit, for your valuable time, your insights, your sharing your personal experiences, and your career development and your career journey. Thank you, Grow Junction, for organizing this podcast, and thanks for our viewers who tuned in and listened to our podcast. Akshit's LinkedIn ID should be there in the video description. And thank you, Akshit, for your time. Have a good day.
Thank you, Aishwarya, so much. It's been amazing with Grow Junction, and you've been an amazing host. I would also welcome everyone. If you have any sort of doubt, please feel free to contact me on LinkedIn. I'll be available 24/7. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.